Please welcome Sam Wickenden, Manufacturer Relations Manager at Motability Operations, to the stage.
Woo! Morning, everyone. Good morning, Birmingham. It is lovely to be here. We're streaming at home. We've got lots of space in the audience if anyone wants to come and have a chat about cars. That's what I'm here for today. So, good morning. It's great to see so many people through the doors today already. My name's Sam. I look after the Manufacturer Relations team at Motability Operations. And I'm responsible for purchasing all the vehicles that come onto the scheme, but also helping launch the new cars that will be joining the scheme over the next 12 months or so. So what am I doing on stage? That's a very good question. I'm here today to have a chat about what's happening on the Motability scheme, what's happening in the car industry, so more broadly than just the scheme, what are the manufacturers in the hall today facing in terms of challenges and what's coming in terms of new products. And lastly, a little bit on the future, and the future is very, very much electric, and why that might be. Hopefully I'll answer any questions you might have at the end as well. So let's jump in and have a quick look at the Motability scheme to start with. So a quick reminder, just so everyone is on the same page. What's the Motability scheme all about? Well, in very simple terms, you can swap your qualifying mobility allowance for a brand new wheelchair accessible vehicle, car, powered scooter, or WAV on the Motability scheme. And don't forget, with that, you get our worry-free package as well. And of course, that includes insurance for 3 named drivers, tyres, servicing, glass, literally just add fuel. It's a really straightforward lease. But of course, in times of old, just add fuel meant add petrol or diesel to your car. And of course, now that could include add electricity to your car. So we'll talk a bit about that a bit later. So the Motability scheme, what's going on? Well, the scheme is growing. Fantastic news. I've worked here for about 10 years. And when I joined the company, we had 600,000 customers. And we've now got over 750,000 customers using the Motability scheme, which is fantastic that that awareness has grown. And it's brilliant that so many people are making use of such a great leasing scheme. We've added 23 new models to the scheme this year. And on average, we are 45% cheaper than the equivalent lease in the wider market. So if you add in that worry-free package, it's a really, really good value, compelling proposition. Now, some exciting things that are going on. 20% of our customers are choosing EV, which is brilliant. So this month, 20% of you have chosen an EV, which is fantastic, 1 in 5 people. 90% of customers choose to renew their lease with us, which is very, very exciting, and actually something I'm so proud of working here, that we offer a customer service level that we have 90% of our customers renewing on the scheme. And we've got the largest electric vehicle fleet in the UK already, and that just shows the scale of the Motability scheme. So in terms of the next biggest competitor, someone like Octopus Electric Vehicles, they've got about 15,000 electric cars on their fleet. The Motability scheme has 50,000 cars on the road that are electric, which is just an incredible size and scale that we're operating on. But that, of course, does come with some challenges when you get that big. So the cars that we're buying today are more expensive than we were 3 years ago. So you will have seen prices go up in household goods, but the same is true in the motor industry as well. And of course, because the cars have got more expensive and we're buying more of them, we also need more money as a company to do that. So some challenges there. We have lots of customers waiting for delivery. Our order banks are huge. And you may recall through the COVID lockdown period, the delays on parts and supply meant that people waited longer for their cars. So we still have big order banks, and we're working very, very closely with the manufacturers in this room to ensure that we can deliver your cars quickly and on time to your dealerships. And lastly, we've doubled down on customer service to make sure that we can still offer that same great worry-free package. Everyone is supported if they break down, if they have an accident, and of course, our contact centres are available if you need to speak to anyone. But I guess some good news in all of that is that wait times have improved since last year. So if you order a car today, the average lead time, depending on which vehicle you order, will probably be somewhere between 16 and 20 weeks, so 4 to 5 months. And my advice would be is if you're ordering a car today or you're in your renewal window, Get your order in nice and early, because not only are you then price protected, but you're also secured your spot in the queue, and you can make sure that your build slot is there and your car will come that bit quicker. I guess our biggest challenge, and part of the reason I'm here today, is to speak about our switch to electric. And it's happening in the industry, and it's happening at some pace. And the key thing there is that we want to ensure that we don't compromise on that fantastic customer service that we deliver. I guess now's a really good time to pause and just have a think about that. And it would be right to ask the question, why do I need to switch to an electric car? Well, petrol and diesel cars are on the way out. They are being phased out. And you may have seen some of the media that possibly contradicts this. So the latest deadline for the ban on the sale of petrol and diesel cars is 2035, which feels a fairly long way away. That's a decade away. And you will have seen some of the headlines. Rishi puts the brakes on electric vehicle adoption. Petrol here to stay. That is simply not the case. This year, we have said 1 in 5 cars on the Motability Scheme are electric, which is brilliant, because that's where they need to be. Underlying all of this is a very, very strict target for manufacturers to sell electric cars. And this year, we need to sell 1 in 5 electric cars. By 2030, that jumps to 4 in 5 electric cars. So whilst petrol and diesel cars will still be available, 80% of the cars in the market will be electric cars. And just think about that. If you renew today, your next lease will come up in 2027. And in 2027, half the market will be electric. And then the next lease again, if you take 2 leases with us, by 2030, almost 80% of the market is going to be fully electric. So it's just worth thinking about that. This is happening at some pace. No one's forcing you into an EV now, but it's worth considering it and starting to understand it. We are seeing manufacturers focus their efforts on launching new EVs. And my team at Motability go out on all of the new product launches, and almost everything we're seeing at the minute is an exciting new electric car. This is all driven by climate change, a mission for the UK and Europe to get to net zero by 2050. This also means, of course, that we're going to see fewer petrol and diesel cars launched. Of course, if they're investing in electric technology, they're going to scale back their investment in petrol and diesel cars. And this sounds a bit doom and gloom, but they are available in the market at the minute, but of course that will slow down over the coming years. I guess underlying this is the fact that we appreciate that the transition to EV could be a bit daunting, it could be scary, but it really doesn't have to be. We've got a great team here today to help you navigate some of the pitfalls and the challenges and the understanding and the knowledge of changing into an electric car. We've got a great choice of EVs. If you've had a chance to have a walk around in the first hour this morning, you will have seen some of the fantastic cars and the brilliant technology on display. Just to pick out a few, the 2 at the end, the Renault Scenic and the Peugeot E3008, both fantastic new cars launched this year with over 300 miles of battery range. The smart #1, not quite the city cars we used to know, the small boxy cars that you could park sideways in parking spaces. Now a funky new brand with an SUV that runs fully on electric. The same can be said for the family favourite, the Fiat 600e, the Hyundai Kona, and BYD, a brand new brand into the UK market, all the way from China, with the exciting Dolphin and the Atto 3, both on display in the events hall today. For those of you that are maybe not quite in the electric headspace just yet, we also have a range of hybrid vehicles. 2 that we've added this year, the Lexus LBX and the new Ford Kuga, both brilliant products as well. We can also help you decipher all of the confusion around fuel types. And there's 4 key fuel types to have a think about. Conventional cars that we all know and most of us use. Those are driven by petrol or diesel. They consume fuel and they emit tailpipe emissions. In the middle there, you've got hybrid and plug-in hybrid, both of which pair a petrol engine with a battery pack, and you can run on both petrol and electric. The only difference being, of course, with a plug-in hybrid car, that you can charge it at home and the battery pack will extend to probably 40 or 50 miles of range for those local journeys that you do. And there's two wonderful plug-in hybrids in the hall that I've seen this morning, the Mazda CX-60 at the back of the hall, and on the left-hand side, the Honda CR-V, both fantastic cars. And lastly, what we're all talking about, electric vehicles, zero tailpipe emissions, but you do need to charge them to run the battery pack. I guess the question I've been asked most this week, I was here yesterday and I spoke to loads of customers, how do I know if I can take an EV? Is an EV on the scheme right for me? Well, the first question I ask everyone is, could you charge your car at home? Because we do include a home charger as part of our EV lease package. I drive an EV and I can charge at home and it's fantastic. I plug it in overnight, I wake up every morning, I have a full tank of electricity and I can do 300 miles that day without having to worry. So if you can charge at home, I genuinely believe most people can make an EV work for them. That does mean you probably need off-street parking or a driveway, so there are some other considerations. If you can't fit a home charger, could you charge at a local public charging station? And the infrastructure is growing really quickly. Someone told me last week that there are now more electric vehicle charging stations in the UK than there are fuel stations in the UK, which blew my mind. I think that's fantastic. And it just shows how quickly this thing is ramping up. Lastly, what's your typical journey type? And something I hear a lot is that I can't take an EV because I do long journeys or I go on holiday to Cornwall once a year. Well, could you plan that charge? I regularly take my electric vehicle on long journeys. And actually, after around 3 hours, about 180, 200 miles, I'm ready for a stop. I need a coffee, I need the loo. It's the perfect time to plug your car in and charge. And if you're at a public charging station, you can rapid charge your car, most of them now in under an hour. So really, really quick to refuel. It may feel like we're pushing EVs really hard, but what I want to do is make this nice and easy to understand. There's 3 ways you can charge an electric car. The first one is a traditional 3-pin plug socket, which is probably not the best option, if I'm honest. Household plugs are not designed to deal with the load that an electric car places on them. Fine for emergencies, fine if you're visiting friends, but probably not a long-term solution. In the middle there, you've got a home charger, and a home charger comes into its own with an electricity tariff with cheap electricity, because you can charge your car up for a matter of pounds, and it becomes really, really cost efficient to run. So that's a fantastic consideration if you've got a driveway. In the middle there is an Ohmie home charger, which is one of our partners, and if you pick an electric car on the scheme, the likelihood is you will probably receive an Ohmie home charger. Now, the great thing about that is that you can charge an EV overnight in a matter of around 7 or 8 hours. So an Ohmie home charger is a fantastic solution. On the other hand, a 3-pin plug, that would take around about 24 hours to fully charge a car. So not something you want to rely on long term, in my opinion. Lastly, we've got rapid chargers. You'll see these out and about on petrol station forecourts, at service stations, in gym car parks, at the supermarket, at the hospitals, at doctors' surgeries, at your dentist, at the golf club. There's many, many rapid chargers popping up all over the country. And these rapid chargers range from 50 kilowatts all the way up to 350 kilowatts. What that basically dictates is the charging speed. 50 kilowatts will probably charge your car in about an hour and 20 minutes, there or thereabouts. Something at 300 kilowatts, if your car is capable of taking that level of charge, is probably looking at about 15 minutes to fully recharge your battery. So some really cool technology that's just getting better and better every day. And I guess for those of you that are wondering, how do I make this work if I live in a block of flats? How do I make this work if I live in a terraced house? We are doing so much work in this space to ensure that no one is left behind in the EV transition. For those in terraced housing, we're exploring pilots of running cables underneath the pavement. And for those in flats, we're looking at options of shared charging. If you're interested in this, please have a chat to the guys that we've got today on the Innovation Hub in the middle, in the big square area. They're full of fantastic knowledge and some great understanding of the pilots that we've got running in England and Scotland at the minute. I guess the last few points, council planning's a really big one to make sure that we get charge points in the right place. And with a fleet of 50,000 electric cars, our data is so useful. we can help councils inform where there are gaps in the network to make sure that our customers are looked after and they have charging near their homes. And lastly, we're investing in charge cards and applications to make sure that all of our customers have access to the public network of chargers. So some really exciting things going on in this space. And I, for one, am thrilled to be working in this area of the business, because I think over the next few years, as we see the shift to electric, it's going to be a really exciting time to be in the motor trade. Where to go if you need more info? Well, the EV Hub in the middle is just a resource to be used today. It's fantastic, so please pop over there. At 11 o'clock today, back here, one of my good friends, James from Nissan, is doing a talk on electric vehicles, and he is the Bible of all things electric. So if you have any questions about electric cars, please pop back at 11 o'clock and have a chat to James. And lastly, of course, you can visit motability.co.uk, where we have a fantastic resource library and a brilliant new car search tool where you can find all of our electric cars, and it will answer loads of the questions you may have. So I guess to wrap things up and some questions at the end, what's going on in the car industry? To summarise, there are some serious emissions targets that the car manufacturers have to hit. So regardless of what you hear in the news, bear in mind that electric vehicles are coming quicker than we think. As I said, by 2030, 80% of the new cars sold in the UK will be electric. And if I was a guessing man, if I was going to have a punt at what's going to happen, I would assume the remaining 20% of cars, the petrol and diesel ones that we can still access, will probably be the most expensive ones. Because if you can only build a limited amount of petrol and diesel cars, you're probably going to build the ones that make you the most money, and you're going to build the luxury ones that are more expensive. So I think we'll see the phase out of smaller cars quicker than we see the phase out of the bigger luxury cars. There's going to be new ways of selling cars, and for us, new ways of buying cars. I think we'll see more transactions on mobile phones. I think we'll see online selling, a bit like with Amazon and eBay. And I think we'll see a far more digital marketplace. And lastly, we are expecting to see more global manufacturers. We mentioned BYD earlier on, but that's one of just many that are making their way to UK shores as we speak. And I think by the end of the year, we'll probably have another 2 or 3 brands in the UK that we haven't seen before. Of course, all of these changes in the industry will have a massive impact on the Motability Scheme. It does mean that advance payments can change. With really, really stringent EV targets, we will see prices fluctuate on electric vehicles a bit more. And that means, as it stands, electric vehicles are really good value for money because there are some targets that manufacturers need to hit. Equally, it does mean that we will see changing products coming to the scheme, so both EVs and different types of petrol and hybrid and plug-in hybrid cars. That's a really exciting thing for me. That just means we have more choice for customers. And lastly, I think the customer experience will evolve. But in all of that and underpinning this is a commitment from us to make sure that our customer experience remains at that 90% renewal rate and the customer satisfaction remains so high, which we hang our hat on, and I'm very, very proud of to work here at Motability Operations. So that really is enough from me. That is more than enough. I am very, very happy now to take any questions from the audience. Louise has kindly got a microphone if anyone would like to ask a question. Nothing is off limits. Anything about cars, anything about the car industry, I will answer honestly, openly, take any questions, anything about the future, anything that's going on now, and if you're not sure about EVs, feel free. If not, I will tackle a few questions that I got yesterday from a lovely lady I spoke to from Liverpool who had travelled down to Birmingham for the big event. So the lady I spoke to yesterday said, I've got a really quick question over here. I'll take this one first. Jump in, Louise.
I was just wondering, how much per month roughly does it cost to charge an electric vehicle?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And it's something we're working on putting on the website to make it a bit more easy to understand, because it really depends on a couple of things. It depends on your mileage profile, so how many miles you drive. It also depends how you charge the car. So if you charge at home or if you charge out and about on the go. And if you use rapid chargers versus slow chargers, because rapid chargers are typically more expensive. So if I take a really broad brush example, a typical petrol car that does 40 miles to the gallon, based on current petrol prices, costs about 20 pence per mile to run. Based on someone who's got a home charger on a standard home tariff at the current off-gem cap, that costs about 30 pence a kilowatt, and in mileage terms, that costs about 10 pence per mile that you drive. So straight away, if you can charge at home, it works out about 50% cheaper to have a home charger. For those that charge out and about on the go at rapid chargers, you'll probably find that the cost is more comparable to running a petrol car, so around about 20, maybe 23, 24 pence, depending on which charging provider you use per mile. Now, something that's kind of an unspoken is smart tariffs, and if you can get cheap off-peak electricity. If you can get a cheap off-peak tariff and charge your car overnight, your 30 pence a kilowatt at home suddenly becomes about 7 pence a kilowatt overnight. And what that translates into is a running cost of about 3 pence per mile. So all of a sudden, you've gone from 20 pence per mile in a petrol car to 3 pence per mile with a smart tariff and a home charger. It just becomes a phenomenal value proposition. I've certainly seen the benefit in my back pocket having an electric car. It's been really, really good. And every month, yes, my electricity bill's gone up, but I'm not spending a penny at the fuel pumps anymore. So, yeah, hopefully that answers a little bit of your question. Any more for any more? So the lady from Liverpool yesterday, she said to me, Sam, I regularly do a long journey. I have family in Scotland. I travel from Liverpool up to the Highlands. I don't think I can have a charger at home. Sorry, I can have a charger at home, but I don't think I'm confident enough to charge on the go. So we had a look online. There's a great resource called ZapMap, and it shows you all of the charging stations around the UK. So we put in her home postcode, and we put in her family's postcode in the Highlands, and we mapped out a journey for her that would require only one stop on the way up. If she picked a car that had a kind of 250-mile battery range, she could drive halfway up, stop, charge her car, and then continue on to her family's house. And actually, around her family's house, there were 3 public chargers within a 4-mile radius of her family home up in Scotland, and that was in the Highlands of Scotland, and that even took me by surprise. I deal with this every day, but it just proved that even in a remote part of the country, the charging network is getting so much better. So I would just encourage you, if you're not sure, have a look at the Innovation Hub today, have a look at the EV Hub and chat to the guys on there, have a look on ZapMap, it's a great online resource. And if you've got any questions or any uncertainty, no one's pushing EV, but I genuinely think it can make a difference to a lot of people. It can save you money, and depending on your circumstances, can even be more convenient. It can save you time not having to visit a petrol station once a week or whatever it might be. Any more questions? I think we've got a question at the back, Louise. Oh, just lost the mic.
I'm from an adaptation stand over here. The main concern from customers yesterday is 2 very popular cars, like the Ford Tourneo Connect, VW Caddy, aren't on the scheme, and they're the only cars that will serve their particular needs. What can be done to rectify that for those customers?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, and it's something that we've struggled with a bit recently, the supply of commercial vehicles. I think that's fair to say. Both those cars you mentioned, obviously, base derivatives off of a van platform, and we've worked with the manufacturers to try and secure supply of those cars, but they are in high demand at the minute, and it's been really tricky. I think all I can give you there is the reassurance that those conversations and channels of conversation are wide open. Both Ford and VW very, very supportive of the scheme. They've got a huge selection of car product, but I take the point. There is a gap in the market there. We're trying to fill it as well with a few other products. Things like the Dacia Joggers prove really popular with customers. We've also got 7-seat SUVs, albeit that I appreciate the MPV option is sometimes more suitable for people. So yeah, really, really valid concern. We're working on a quarterly basis, updating the pricing to try and secure availability of those cars. It's 2 actually that are right at the top of my priority list at the minute. Right, I think that brings us to the end of our session. Just a huge thank you to everyone that's joined me today. Hopefully that's allayed some fears about EVs and also explained maybe why we're seeing so many electric cars on the price list and maybe some of the information behind the pricing dynamics at play. I've got a speaker session now and an interview with Mark on the stage, but if anyone's got any questions afterwards, I'll be hovering around the EV hub later. Come and have a chat to me. And also a reminder again at 11 o'clock, we've got James from Nissan, who is their EV product expert, and he is the Bible of all things EV. So please pop across and have a chat to James. His knowledge is wonderful, and he will be happy to take any questions. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your morning. Cheers.